My question is, with all the tariffs going on, is with like the World Cup coming up here pretty soon, are these countries even going to want to come to the United States?
Well, I think the good news on that is, maybe it'll provide some extra like rivalry. The bad news is they might get sent home early.
You're listening to The Freight Break on the BCS Freight Network with your hosts, Josh Haynes and Paul Gibson.
Welcome to The Freight Break. How's it going today, Josh?
It's going. Happy Wednesday. Happy episode number 3. How are you doing?
Oh, doing pretty good. I was kind of excited to see the Bears go all the way, and that didn't happen.
Unfortunately, the Cinderella clock hit midnight for them in a very cold way. I mean, LA came in and shut them down in the most cold environment.
And you think like a lot of those teams don't usually do well. I mean, against Kansas City fans, we've definitely taken advantage of that.
I think the Bears had to go hibernate. Da-dun.
Oh my goodness.
That was my joke right there. Sorry. Damn, that was it.
It's all right. I think it's fair. I mean, that's what I want to do, though. It is cold here in Kansas City. But it is kind of exciting because everybody from the BCS is actually in town this week looking at the Overland Park Convention Center where everything's going to happen for our April BCS that is here. And so it's nice for all of them to come here. And as soon as everybody decided to come here, it got super cold.
Yeah, planning the Orlando, Florida one was a little bit more enjoyable. I mean, Kansas City will be great when we have the BCS Summit in the spring. But right now, planning it in the winter, it is a cold time.
Yeah, it is the 3rd episode of The Freight Break since we took over for Dan Lindsay, and we are trying to grow the BCS network. So if you could like, subscribe anywhere you do this or you're viewing it, so then that way we can help grow things. Also, we don't have any sponsors at the moment, so we can kind of get away with whatever we want, but you definitely could get your name on the screen here. We could do an ad read, or we could come to you and we could film a commercial. We do that.
We do. And I'm not just saying it because it's us. They're pretty good. We're pretty good at what we do.
I guess with that, since there's nothing to push you guys, it's time for
good news, bad news.
All right, so Josh, here's my question to you. Good news, bad news. Do you want the good news or the bad news first?
Some people like going one way or the other. I personally like hearing the good news first. So give me that good news. What do you got?
Good news.
The value of gold and silver both reached record highs. So silver reached over $94 per ounce and gold reached over $4,690 per ounce. So if you're invested, huge news. But
bad news.
The value is actually up due to Trump threatening tariffs against 8 different European countries in part of his attempt to acquire Greenland for the U.S., which is kind of more proof that, the sudden effects and the instability of tariffs on the general market right now is kind of something that's sort of here to stay for the foreseeable future. It's not really something that you can plan around. It's more something you just have to learn to brace for.
Yeah, it is felt like a very long 2026. I think you mentioned that even last episode. It's been long. It's been long.
The longest, shortest month.
I'm not saying it's the shortest month in the world, but if it was very short, it would be the shortest one that you've ever seen. I'm not saying there's ones that are longer, but
we have the biggest months, the best months, and we have
good news.
At least the tariffs aren't pointed at us, right? Right.
Bad news.
So the EU has actually threatened retaliatory tariffs of over $107 billion against us, or the possible blocking of certain American companies in retaliation. So that's new, though. That's interesting. To actually have like a large amount of tariffs actually placed back at us.
My question is, with all the tariffs going on, is with like the World Cup coming up here pretty soon. Are these countries even going to want to come to the United States to
Well, I think the good news on that is, maybe it'll provide some extra like rivalry. It'll make it a little bit more intense. The bad news is they might get sent home early.
Good news.
The Supreme Court is set to decide ultimately if Trump's tariffs in general are actually constitutional sometime this week, possibly as early as yesterday by the time that this airs. So Tuesday, they will actually decide if those tariffs are constitutional. So we'll actually get some weight in other than the executive orders.
Bad news.
We don't know how that's going to go. It could go either way. The instability, could continue. It could be a thing that becomes normalized. Does that mean there's going to be an increase? And even if it all does stop, what does the pulling back of that look like? It's one of those things where it seems like it would be wonderful potentially because it would lift up, the stuff that that's put hardships on, but it might not either. It's one of those things that'll be interesting to navigate if it does. And like always, per usual, the unusual that we would have to navigate if it stays. So I don't know. It's one of those things. It's just the market. I try not to get super doom and gloomy, trying to liven it up, but it really is. It's crazy out there. And this environment that we're in isn't necessarily built for people to survive or thrive. It's tough. And the only way, like I say, you can make it out is with like-minded people who want to make the industry better and want to work together to make the supply chain work. And that's why I love the BCS. And we got some events coming up, Josh. What do those look like?
We've got the cross-border connector coming up first and foremost. That's coming up real fast because January's flying by. Cross-border connector is February 17th through the 18th in Laredo, Texas. If you have not signed up, definitely do so. It is going to be a first of its kind. It is going to be something that if you're wanting to get into cross-border freight, you're new to it, or maybe you are very impacted by it, you are not going to want to miss this event. And then also, we mentioned the entire BCS team is here in Kansas City getting ready for BCS in the spring. And that is going to be April 28th through the 29th. 2 events you definitely need to check out, as well as we've got Dallas in the fall, but we'll talk about that as we get a little closer. You can check any of those events out, as well as everything else on bcsfreightnetwork.com. Jump on there, sign up for the events coming, as well as there's just a really lot of good information on bcsfreightnetwork.com.
But yeah, like we talk about on the show all of the time, it's important to have a network. It's important to find other people who are trying to solve for problems in the industry and solving to try to do it right and not just put band-aids, to actually innovate and move things forward. One of the other biggest events where you can meet the most amount of people is Manifest, and we have Tanzil Uddin here. How's it going, man?
Hey, Paul, it's going really well. Thank you for having me.
So I'm excited. This is actually going to be my first time actually getting to go to Manifest. So I have no idea what to expect other than what I've read online, and everybody's saying that it's like the biggest thing in the world.
Well, I'm so glad to hear you're going to be joining us. I did not know this would be your first time. That's awesome to hear that we get to see you there in 3 weeks.
If you kind of had to break it down versus like a lot of other, things that you might go to, like a lot of other conferences, stuff like that about freight. I know like at BCS, our big deal as a partner, our sole focus is on networking, meeting people that are also in the trenches. What is the big deal at Manifest?
Yeah, you know what? It's definitely, networking is one of it, and it's the main thing. We often would describe it as just one big networking event. You said you've heard it's the biggest thing. It's probably the biggest thing since sliced bread, whatever corny joke I want to put in there. But it's almost like your LinkedIn connections have come to life. That has been one of the best comments that I've heard from people in the industry when they've attended. It's pretty cool. If you are in supply chain, freight, logistics, that's how it feels. So there's this energy in the room for people. It's very comfortable, and people are just very open to having dialogue on and off stage, on and off expo hall, throughout dinners, networking receptions. So that's one big part for sure, networking. I think the other one is supply chain. And I say this a lot, but supply chain decisions just feel really heavy right now. And there is a need for the community to get together and just benchmark and hear from their peers and understand what's happening, how things are moving, and what technologies are helping us move. And for that, we bring it all together. We bring the entire ecosystem under one roof, and you have all of the innovation and funding there. You have all of the supply chain decision makers there, and they're able to just talk it out really throughout the week of Manifest. And you're seeing where, I'll say tariffs, for example, or geopolitical unrest and disruptions, what's happening there and what are we doing. You're seeing technological advancements. Of course, AI is one of them, but the biggest one, but just emerging technologies holistically. How is it helping us remedy some of our challenges? How is it helping us make our supply chain maybe not predictable as possible, but just how do we enable some of our decision making across the supply chain? What is helping us automate it? And then the workforce, that is a big theme. It's, what are we doing with the workforce? What is happening with the workforce with upskilling, development, cooperation with technologies? And so those are some really big themes. And yeah, we're excited to bring it all together, just the networking and the education and the technology all under one roof.
Yeah, and I mean that's the I think the first thing. So being like a media and video guy, mostly the first thing that like when I almost got to go the last time, someone was like, "Hey, check this out," and then I looked at like who's there like covering it, and I'm like, "Oh, this is like major networks and stuff." I'm like, "That's pretty cool," But then like actually looking into who's there, it's like I mean it's got over 400 plus speakers. That's like over a speaker a day for a year, there's so much. And when you look at it, it's because you guys touch like everything. Like you can have like a cold chain party. Like you're gonna like it's literally if you it somehow seems like it has the ability to like be broad but also super niche at the same time. Like everybody fits somewhere.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's by design. There is something for everyone. You have the four main parts of the supply chain journey: plan, source, make, and deliver. Wherever you fall in there, there's something for you. So broad but niche, to your point. If I'm just coming for manufacturing, there is a lot of content just for manufacturing, and there are in turn there are technologies that are covering manufacturing that are operating within factories and plants in the four walls, as one example. So there is absolutely something for everyone. It's like your a la carte menu, and you pick out what you like based on your own day to day, your interest level, and you can design your own agenda within an agenda accordingly, both on the content and the people as well as the technology side. And so that's also for sure by design. Cold chain is just one of the new additions as a result of popular demand from a subset of attendees that have attended manifest in prior years, and us just seeing where cold chain has headed given climate change discussions amongst others. It was just one of those things that made sense to add.
It seems like a place to where pretty much anything that's happening is going to be there. Like it seems like a great way to also like kind of get an eyeball for like the future, which is I mean in this market and the way that the market's been, like I always say, like people have been saying next quarter for I don't know 3 years now, and now even the next quarter people are saying, oh, maybe next year. So it's like I mean in these times like that's a great thing to be able to get a handle on. Like how how much stuff have you seen that's like been kind of presented as like an idea sort of or like in progress that like you've seen implemented? Like how often does that happen? You hear about something that manifests and then like a year or so later it's the thing.
You'd be surprised. It's to our surprise as well. It's a lot more than would expect. Every year there are almost dozens of new announcements that come out of Manifest or come you kind of notice after Manifest. And we've also done a lot of case studies. We have our Fest Live, and Fest Live is basically we conduct interviews with members of our community, and we publish that across our networks, throughout the event planning cycle or throughout the year. And there are a handful up there where it's kind of like a we met at Manifest story, and it's a like a shipper, for example, or a consumer brands company that met an innovative returns technology or supply chain software provider at the event, and they ended up going through initiation, hypothesis setting, pilots, and they're working together now. And so we've seen quite a lot of those come out of the event. we've seen a lot of announcements that have come at the event as well, where there is a virtual press room that we have, and dozens of companies will use Manifest as kind of their springboard to either launch a product, announce a new partnership, or make an announcement or make a major announcement while there. So there's a lot of that that's happening. We try to capture as much of it as possible where people would share and talk about it with us, like I said, through Fest Live or through our virtual press room. But we would see dozens of those instances once our event comes around and post event. So we're definitely excited for, to see what's to come next month at the show. And, obviously, like I mentioned, announcements on site and new partnerships that come from it.
What has been kind of the biggest evolution you've seen from the early stages when Manifest started to what it is now? What has been like the biggest thing you've seen shift? I know the industry is always shifting, but specifically like with Manifest, you're talking about tariffs earlier and how collaboration is very important. What has been that big shift that you've kind of seen over the last 5 years, really, of where it was to where it is now?
I would say a couple things. So one, to take a step back, within Manifest, I kind of thankfully or gratefully have a pulse of the supply chain leaders perspective. I work primarily with those that are chief supply chain officers or chief procurement officers or similar EVP, SVP, VP level leaders in that space. And so really the operators. And so I kind of get an idea of what they've been prioritizing. And one of the things that I've seen, or one of the shifts that I've seen over the past 5 years, is ever more so now. Well, first, if we look at supply chain, just the niche answer is like the way supply chain has become mainstream is pretty big. I don't think it was as mainstream as it is today 5 years ago. It kind of started, the seeds were being planted, and today it's pretty mainstream. A lot of these chief supply chain officers that I'm referring to are sitting at the board now. They're sitting at the table. They're sitting with the CEO. They're partners of the business. That continue to accelerate over the years, and many organizations have recently introduced the chief supply chain officer role, which is also pretty refreshing and very telling, if you ask me. And so that's one. And then when I look at these people, though, it's their mindsets have shifted too, because then that's my second point, where 5 years ago it was, terms like the Black Swan event, and these are one-offs. And today it's basically that uncertainty is our norm. It is our reality. And so it's not about predicting the next one. It is more so about being ready to be able to react and being equipped with the tools, the people, the technologies that will help us make decisions quickly. And that has been the name of the game, I would say, and the biggest evolution I've seen over the past 5 years.
I think me and Paul have even noticed it throughout the years of being around the industry, is how things have shifted, and specifically with us at the BCS and you guys at Manifest. I'm sure you've seen collaboration as such a key thing. How important is cross industry collaboration right now? From your take, how important is that?
I would argue it's half of the it's half the game. It's so crucial right now, and because these whether it be geopolitical, socioeconomical, just global disruptions that are the supply chain is faced with, there is a heavy need for co-development or co-building. And if we're going to talk about, for us, there's such a big presence of startups in the room. And if we're going to talk about these emerging technologies, some that may have incredible ramifications for the industry in the future, there is a need for really the industry to co-develop with these companies and talk through what are some of the needs that we are trying to prioritize, what are some of the challenges that we're hoping to have a solution for, and how do we see ourselves making strides towards remedying some of this. And so it's not a kind of one directional approach, it's step by step or phase by phase. And so being able to co-develop with these companies is very crucial. And yeah, I think that's also another thing that we've seen increase quite a lot, where companies are, there are a lot of M&As, there are a lot of partnerships, there are a lot of, again, co-developments that are occurring in the space. And every part of the supply chain needs to be seated at the table to really push a lot of this forward. And so that's why I think we've benefited from being able to bring together every part of the supply chain at an event like ours, where there is the entire ecosystem So you can kind of start or plant those seeds of co-development with everyone that you need to plant those seeds with while you are at an event like ours.
And I love that too, especially like so being a partner with you guys in BCS and Manifest partnering. Like I love that because we're both like, conferences were kind of in the same vein, but it's not like a one person, like there's room for everybody basically. It's like a rising tide lifts, so it's not a zero sum game. And I love hearing people that are at that point where they're like, no, we gotta bring it all together. Because that's the only way is like if you don't find people that actually want to fix the industry or do anything to make it better in this kind of like situation, like we're not gonna make it. We need each other. I love that. Yeah, because this is wild to navigate. But like back to speaking of navigating, back to that app, and then like you guys having like 400 plus speakers, and only 4 days in that. What is that? Like what all can you do on the app?
So the app will be your source of truth for your on-site experience, really. The app went live last week. And basically, if you are a registered participant, you're an attendee, speaker, sponsor, partner, you receive login details to get in, set up your profile, tell the app the key themes, solutions, type of people that you're interested in. Once that happens, you're going to see all other attendees that have done the same thing as you. They've set up their profiles, and you can start networking right away. So you can send them messages, connection requests, and inevitably set up your meetings for Manifest. So a lot of meetings are already getting scheduled as we speak, where once they get to the show for the 9th of February, 10th of February, they have a menu of meetings set already. So they already have that, like I was saying earlier, that agenda within an agenda with networking. So networking, you're also able to right now browse all of the sessions that are happening at Manifest throughout the 3 days. So all the speakers that are set to take the stage, you will be able to see what they're speaking about, when. And so now you're able to just browse it all and build your own schedule. And now you have a list of key sessions that you want to make sure you attend and you don't miss. And this is where you can filter it out. I'm interested in XYZ. I'm interested in warehousing, whatever it is. You can filter it out accordingly and set up your own schedule. So now you have sessions, you have meetings that can happen and be set or determined right now as we speak prior to the show. And you're also able to browse the expo hall, the technologies that are there, which is what, one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people do attend Manifest. And so you have hundreds of companies inside the expo, and you're able to see who they are, what technologies they offer, where in the supply chain they operate, so on and so forth, and also figure out where they are inside the expo hall, when the expo is open, all that good stuff. And so now you're able to build that out too. These are the technologies that I want to make sure I experience while there. And it's really just like I said earlier, it's the source of truth for everything experience related on site. There's also like a third-party events page where, for those that are hosting anything during the evenings of the Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, and they make us aware of it, we put their events on our third parties events section, where you also know what dinners and receptions you can attend. Outside of ours, of course, we have tons of different receptions that are happening throughout the 3 days. But yeah, it's really the key tool to use for everything pre-planning and during Manifest.
So it's a lot of times usually like when you end up getting like an app for an event like that, it's typically like a map and just like a schedule. So the thing is like, so with that, there's actually a benefit to downloading it early, because there also might be people who are also using it early. And if you don't get there in time, you might not, you're not going to miss a session, but you might miss your opportunity to have a meeting with somebody. So there's also a benefit to signing up early, from what I understand.
Once you are registered, you receive your information for the app. That's the key thing. So if you are someone that is registered, you're already in the app, to your point. You're already networking, you're already messaging people, you're already browsing the sessions and expo hall technologies. And so the first step, of course, will be, visit the site. You'll share that link later, I trust, and you get registered so that you can get onboarded into all of this key stuff.
The app sounds like it's phenomenal. It's like an AI assistant that's going to help you through the conference. And like Paul was saying, being in there early, signing up early so you can get those meetings scheduled out. That sounds like a huge key thing. And you were talking about a code. I do have it for our audience. It is manifestvegas.com/BCS. If you want to sign up, you need to do it today, pretty much tomorrow at the latest. But right now, just finish the episode and then immediately just go sign up, because it sounds like it's going to be amazing and you want to get that deal before the prices go up. It is going to be February 9th through the 11th in Las Vegas. Always a good place, always a good time. And, maybe you'll also win some money there.
Also, do you have any tips for anybody who hasn't been or stayed the whole time about surviving in Vegas?
Yeah, no, it's insane. It is insane. Comfortable shoes are always number one. That's number one for me too. I made that big mistake in year one of Manifest. It was a rookie move, but comfortable shoes, it gets very overwhelming. You want to prep as much as possible. We cannot say that enough, because if you and I've done this before at other events where you almost wing it. You get your ticket, you're busy with work, like we all are, and you're busy with just other things, where you kind of put it off, right? And that's very natural to do until the week of, and then you're there, and now it's a lot, especially if the event is big enough like this one. And so prep is key, and we cannot overstate that, I believe. And so you want to prep, you want to wear comfortable shoes. And I personally, if I'm going to walk the strip, I will do it just one time and I won't do it again. There are times, this is our 5th year. I think I've only done it probably once. So the other 4 years, the other 3 years, this is the 5th year. I just stayed in the venue. And,
yeah, the Venetian's big enough you could.
Well, exactly, right. So I try to avoid the strip as much as possible, unless we have our own events that are kind of across the street or another property or whatever. But yeah, to each his own.
You don't want to get a picture with those showgirls that charge you like $300 for your own cell phone.
Right. Bucket list item, isn't it?
Yeah. Sometimes I lose a little bit too bad. I'll end up at that Taco Bell cantina across the street, though.
Well, Tanzil, I appreciate you coming on the Freight Break and letting all the viewers know about what's coming up with Manifest. It sounds phenomenal. I'm a little jealous that I'm not going to be there. Paul's going to be there. Some other people from our team's going to be there. It sounds like all the big hitters are going to be there, and it's something that you guys are not going to want to miss out on. Again, we'll have the link in the description below, as well as it's manifestvegas.com/BCS. Sign up for it today. Prices are going to go up in 2 days from now, so you don't want to miss out on that.
Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you both for having me. This was fun.
Thanks for tuning into the Freight Break. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Freight Break on the BCS Freight Network. And now, you're not.